You felt it this morning. Not a scratchy throat, not a headache. Something worse. You woke up and your leg was wrong. Bent somewhere it shouldn't bend. A bone that has shifted in the night, grinding against itself every time you try to move. You reach for your phone to call an ambulance. Except there is no phone. There is no ambulance. There is no hospital 40 minutes away with fluorescent lights and a doctor who has seen this before. There is a cave, a fire, and 23 people who love you and have absolutely nothing that can fix this. This is 50,000 years ago. And what happens next will completely change the way you see the human body and the people who kept it alive before anyone knew how. Let's start with what your world actually looks like. Your tribe is your entire universe. Maybe 20 people, maybe 30. You know every face. You have shared every fire, every kill, every loss. The average person in your world lives to around 35. Not because the human body can't survive longer, but because something usually gets there first. A hunt that goes wrong, a winter without enough food, a wound that won't close. And when something gets you, there is no system waiting to catch you. No insurance, no surgery, no professional whose entire career is keeping you alive. Just your tribe and what they know. What they know turns out to be more than you'd expect. Long before anyone understood bacteria, before anyone had ever heard the word infection, human beings were building a medical system. It had no buildings, no equipment, no written records. It lived entirely inside human memory, passed from healer to student, generation to generation, for tens of thousands of years. And some of it worked better than we gave it credit for. Otzi the Iceman was 53 years old when he died in the Alps, 5,300 years ago. When researchers found his frozen body in 1991, they found something unusual among his possessions. 2 pieces of birch polypore mushroom, strung on a leather cord, worn around his body. For years, scientists weren't sure what to make of them. Then, they tested the mushrooms. Birch polypore contains documented antibiotic and anti-inflammatory compounds. Otzi also had intestinal parasites. The mushroom he was carrying has been shown in modern studies to have direct anti-parasitic effects. He wasn't carrying jewelry. He was carrying medicine. And Otzi is only 5,300 years old. The relationship between humans and medicinal plants goes back much further than that. Archaeologists studying ancient dental plaque from Neanderthal remains at a site called El Cedron in Spain found traces of plants with zero nutritional value. Among them, yarrow and groundsel. Both have documented medicinal properties. Both are bitter, unpleasant to eat, and provide no calories. The Neanderthals weren't eating them for energy. They were eating them because somewhere along the line, someone learned they worked. This was at least 50,000 years ago. And willow bark. Humans have been chewing willow bark for at least 3,500 years, documented in ancient Egyptian medical records. The active compound in willow bark is salicin. Your body converts salicin into salicylic acid. In 1897, chemists synthesized a stable version of that compound and called it aspirin. The pill your doctor recommends is the same molecule your ancestors stripped from a tree before the wheel existed. That's not metaphor. That's chemistry. But plants could only do so much. When the injury was severe enough, when the pain was deep enough, when nothing in the forest was working, ancient humans went somewhere else entirely. Somewhere that will make you deeply uncomfortable. In 2018, researchers studying a Neolithic skull found in Spain made a discovery that stopped the medical history community cold. The skull was approximately 5,000 years old. It had been cut open, not by injury or accident, but deliberately by a human hand using a stone tool. The bone around the cut had begun to regrow. The person had survived. This practice is called trepanation. It is the oldest confirmed surgical procedure in human history, and it has been found on every inhabited continent on Earth. Skulls with deliberately cut holes, some healed, some not, have been discovered in Peru, France, Russia, China, and across Africa. The oldest examples are over 7,000 years old. What were they treating? Researchers believe it was used for severe headaches, seizures, skull fractures, and behaviors that seemed to involve the head in ways the healer couldn't explain. Their logic was not wrong. They didn't understand neurology, but they understood that something inside the skull was causing the problem and that access might help. Studies of these skulls suggest that between 50 and 90% of patients survive, based on bone regrowth around the edges of the cuts. These weren't panicked attempts, they were practiced procedures performed with stone, without anesthesia, with survival rates that should not have been possible. And there was someone performing them, someone who knew which plants to use, which ones to avoid, when to cut, and when to wait. In virtually every hunter-gatherer society ever studied, anthropologists have found the same figure: the shaman, the medicine keeper, the healer. Where a hunter's knowledge could feed the tribe for a week, the shaman's knowledge could keep the tribe alive for a generation. A 2021 study published in PLOS One analyzed burial sites from the Natufian culture in the Eastern Mediterranean, dating back roughly 12,000 years. A woman in her 40s, buried with over 50 tortoise shells, parts of an eagle, a leopard, a wild boar, a cow tail, and the foot of a human being. The researchers concluded she was almost certainly a shaman. The most carefully buried person at the entire site was the healer. These people weren't just mixing herbs. They were the living library of their community. Every treatment that had ever worked, every plant that had ever helped, every procedure that had saved a life, it lived inside them. Lose the shaman, and the tribe lost its entire medical history in a single death. Now come back to you. Your broken leg, your fire, your 23 people who love you. Here is what actually happens. Someone in your tribe knows which plants reduce swelling. They are already moving toward the tree line. Someone else is heating river clay, which has documented antibacterial properties that modern researchers have confirmed. A third person is stripping bark from a willow tree nearby. They set your bone, not gently. They pack the wound with clay and crushed yarrow leaves. They move you closer to the fire and keep you there, because every hunter-gatherer group ever studied does this instinctively when someone has a fever, and we now know the immunological reason why they were right. Fever is not your body malfunctioning. It is your immune system raising the temperature to kill pathogens that cannot survive the heat. Your ancestors didn't have germ theory, but 300,000 years of watching people die taught them what helped. Here is the part that stays with you. In Shanidar Cave in northern Iraq, researchers found the remains of a Neanderthal man who had lived to between 40 and 50 years old. By Neanderthal standards, extraordinarily old, but it wasn't his age that stopped scientists. It was his body. His right arm had been amputated. He was partially blind. He had severe arthritis throughout his spine and joints. He could not have hunted. He could not have gathered his own food. He could not have survived a single week alone. And yet he had lived for years in that condition. His tribe fed him, carried him, protected him, kept him warm beside fires he could no longer build himself, because that is what the oldest evidence of healthcare on Earth actually looks like. Not a building, not a machine, not a pill. A group of people who decided that one of them was worth keeping alive, even when it cost them something. Researchers estimate that roughly 25% of children in ancient hunter-gatherer societies died before the age of 5, mostly from infection and disease. And yet, the species survived. It survived because of the birch mushroom and the willow bark, because of the shaman buried with 50 tortoise shells, because of the practiced hands that cut open skulls and somehow kept people alive, and because of tribes that refused to leave their broken ones behind. The next time something hurts and you reach into your medicine cabinet, that pill in your hand is not modern convenience. It is the end of a line that stretches back 50,000 years, back to someone crouched beside a fire, packing clay into a wound, not knowing exactly why it helped, only knowing that it did. We didn't invent the ability to survive. We inherited it from people who had nothing and found a way anyway.